Welcome to Campfire Football. I'm Sebastian North. Huge news this week. USL is apparently going to be voting on whether or not they want to adopt a promotion relegation system within the structure of the USL. So very interesting news. When I first heard it, I was like Cristiano Ronaldo style, see, because I've been waiting for something like this to hit the United States for a long time. It didn't matter to me what sport was going to try and do it first. But if it's the USL, awesome. Look, this is not some kind of giant change that is happening that is going to change the landscape forever immediately. It's not like that. But to me, this is a step in the right direction. I wanted to go through this article. We'll go through it bit by bit. It won't take too long. It's not a big article. And we'll just kind of talk about some of the things that they've talked about here, what looks to be coming in terms of the vote, why. And look, if you have any opinions, if you have any thoughts on this whole thing, please hit them in the comment section below. I'm really interested to know what people think about this because, you know, it's kind of a newer topic in the United States. One thing I'll say before we get started, and this is just a perception on my part, but Welcome to Wrexham and Ted Lasso have really opened a lot of people's eyes to promotion relegation people who do not follow European football, right? Whether they even follow soccer in the US at all, but or not. I think a lot of people, when you talk to them about promotion and relegation in this country, especially if they're fans of other sports, sometimes they're shocked. Like they're like, that sounds amazing. That sounds like really exciting and lots of fun. Why on earth don't we do that? Well, most of it has to do with franchise ownership being look, the way leagues are structured in the United States, they're not built for this. Now, what makes USL different is that they already have multiple tiers within the USL. So they have more than one, and therefore they can look into adding this as part of it. So let's go through what they say here in the article and just try and pick it apart a little bit, all right? It won't take too long. So USL is set for a milestone vote on the adoption of a promotion and relegation system in its lower division men's soccer structure. Sources briefed on the plans tell The Athletic. The sources who were granted anonymity because they are not authorized to publicly discuss the vote before it takes place are optimistic the vote will be passed, but it is not considered a certainty, right? So there's a vote coming up. There's some owners who are feeling pretty strong about it, that they think it'll happen. Obviously, not everyone is going to be 100% on board. There's going to be some discussion. Owners are going to vote on whether to proceed toward the new competitive structure in the USL's Board of Governors meetings set to take place August 9th and 10th in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Colorado Swing Switchbacks, yeah. If enacted, the USL would be the first open professional league system in modern U.S. history. Okay, open system is a term that a lot of people use. It's not an open system through the whole soccer pyramid. It would be just an open system in USL. So how open you consider that, I guess that's like a terminology. That's a term you can decide whether or not is right or not for this. But basically, yeah, it would be the first league in the U.S. That's professional of any sport that has a system where you can get knocked down if you suck and promoted if you're good. The vote will not be on a specific and finalized framework for promotion and relegation, the sources said. Rather, the topic up for vote will confirm whether ownership at the league's clubs has enough collective interest to merit further work toward implementing an open system among the USL's professional competitions. So, the vote that is coming up, let's make this clear, is not a yes or no referendum on whether or not this will happen and how it's done and the structure of it. This is, all right, we want to do, if they vote yes, it'll be, okay, we're doing this. Let's figure out the best way how. So these are really preliminary steps. This is why people shouldn't just be like, oh, like it's on. We're going to have Pro-Rel. Done. It may not happen. Discussions and things still need to take place before we get to that point. But to me, this is definitely a step in the right direction. USL spokesperson declined to comment when reached The Athletic. Of course, they want to remain anonymous on this. The upcoming vote culminates work that publicly began in earnest at the USL's 2021 mid-year meetings when the organization formally proposed working toward incorporating promotion and relegation between its second division championship and third division League One. So, the USL Championship is the top league in the USL, but it is the second division in U.S. soccer. This is going to be important as we go forward. League One is the second champion league in USL, but it is the third division in US soccer. Okay? This is going to matter as we continue, as I said. A move to an open system is seen by those in favor as a way to boost interest, sustainability, and growth potential in the lower division landscape of American soccer, given the format's increased stakes at both ends of the table. True. Again, they keep saying open system. This does not involve MLS. Let's just be very clear about that right away. This is not about MLS. This is just USL. So they have 2 leagues. Talk about promotion and relegation between them. That's what we're reading here. But there's more. Here's a quote. If you somehow think continuing on our current trajectory will make us competitive and where we all want to be, you're fooling yourself, one USL owner told The Athletic. Well, this one decided to talk. The reality is MLS will destroy USL long-term on our current trajectory. But if USL successfully adopts Pro Rel and can get Division I sanctioning for the top level, it'll be transformed. It's a very interesting quote there. The reality is MLS will destroy USL long-term. I would love to know what that means and really why this owner said that. I don't know if that's true. I think USL has done pretty well to build itself to where it is, and it doesn't have MLS 2 teams anymore. And they mentioned that in the next paragraph, which we'll talk about. But I don't know if the MLS will destroy USL long term. An owner feels this way. I can totally understand that they have that perspective. I don't know. I don't understand it fully. I don't know the line of reasoning that he has for that specific comment. But it's definitely his opinion, so okay. What he's saying then he says, if USL successfully adopts Pro Rel and can get Division I sanctioning for the top level, that is huge. Right now, Division I sanctioning is held only by the MLS. USL Championship does not have it. So if the USL Championship wants to have a Division I standing and sanctioning from the U.S. Soccer Federation, that would definitely change the way it is, but they would therefore be in direct competition with MLS, and I don't know how well that would go. So again, this is a long way away. If certain forces can get in the way of this, this is definitely an interesting preliminary question. So the USL was founded in 1986. And it established its second division sanctioning championship in 2011 and third division League One in 2019. So, although it previously included MLS and affiliate clubs among its ranks for nearly a decade, 2023 marks the first year without any MLS 2 teams or a former relation of any kind with the U.S. and Canada's first division men's league. So, the USL is pretty independent now on its own, which is great. I don't think having MLS 2 teams in there was a good look. I don't know if it was like detrimental for the league, but it definitely wasn't a good look. Moving on. While the specifics of the plan are still up for deliberation before being finalized, the league is exploring creating an additional tier between the championship and the League One's current standing. That means that they would have 3 leagues. They would do 3. So it'd be championship, something in between, and then League One, I guess. And maybe they rename them. Expansion teams may step into this new middle tier pending payment of fees greater than those necessary for entry to League One. One source said the current asking fee for entry to League One is around $5 million. So if you can get into USL League One, which would be their bottom tier, third tier, if that's what they continue to call it, costs about $5 million to get a franchise in there. Let's say you pay significantly more, and I'm not saying hundreds of millions, but like maybe $50 million. Maybe then you get yourself into the second tier, right? But here it says sporting merit would dictate some clubs dropping from the championship to the new recruit or the new circuit. One source said they were not aware of any way in which a pre-existing club could move up or down the initial pyramid beyond on-field performance. This would eliminate the potential for an existing League One club to buy their way into the levels above them. So yeah, you cannot be buying your way at a certain level. This would already tarnish the whole thing from the beginning. They have to make it on sporting merit alone. So that's another thing they're going to have to keep in mind and look into to make sure it's done correctly. And actually, we'll get into part of the reason why the standing and the sanctioning of what division you are makes a difference. Creating a third tier for professional USL clubs is seen as a crucial step for a successful model. You can't call this a true promotion and relegation model if only one league has promotion and the other league has relegation. There wouldn't be enough at stake. Yeah, so If it's just 2 leagues, I mean, that's not bad. But if you have 3, then there is really a top, and there is a so. For instance, if you can't get relegated from the bottom league, of course, if you're in the second league, you can't get relegated. If you're in the top league, you can only get relegated. You can't get promoted. They want to add at least one league in between where both can happen, and I think that's clever. I think that is smart. Pending interest and the ensuing vote, the new 3-level structure could be implemented as soon as 2024, next year. Alternatively, next season could be used to determine which clubs will be at the level of the newly split championship. So they would kind of do seeding this year. Here's a quote. USL is in a great position because it can adopt promotion and relegation, said one USL owner. MLS have backed themselves into a corner because how do you tell San Diego they're going to pay $500 million for an expansion fee and maybe we'll get relegated, right? Big problem for for the MLS. It costs so much to get a franchise in MLS that if all of a sudden you pay $500 million to get into MLS and then they say have 2 divisions and you can get bumped down, makes the expansion fee not as valuable to people. And this is a problem for MLS. This is a corner they've backed themselves into, which is why I think this being brought into USL might just be something that makes MLS teams think, what do we do? What do we do to make the league more sustainable, better, everything, more exciting? There are questions about how the league would look to capitalize on a format that is more commonly used in global soccer. Specifically, one source wondered if they would see a shift to promotion relegation as being enough to differentiate from MLS, rather than a springboard to boost the league's prominence both domestically and abroad. Interesting question. Look, it would definitely separate them from MLS. It would definitely be some kind of difference, a big difference in the way people view both leagues. Where it goes from there, I don't know, but it would be fascinating. So continuing, it could also be at odds with the USL's increased focus on developing and selling young players if clubs have further incentive to prioritize winning over all else. In recent years, USL players have been sold to international clubs like Real Sociedad, Jonathan Gomez, Benfica, Josh Winder, and Reims, Kobe Henry. Yeah, I understand that to a certain degree. I'm going to push back on that one, though, because the USL being a developmental league, I mean, it is because there's nowhere to go. If you are a USL player, you cannot go with your team to some big heights. Best you can do is win the US Open Cup, which has never happened for the USL. That could potentially, every year it's possible. But yeah, if you're a USL player, your goal is to get, hopefully, I mean, if it all goes well, your goal is to maybe get a transfer to an MLS team, and then you're really sort of in an area where you can maybe find a way somewhere else. They have been selling to international clubs, which is great that there's international clubs looking at the USL, possibly because it's easier to do deals. You can pay the club, you don't have to pay the league and go through the whole MLS thing. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but here's my thing. You can be a 28-year-old guy playing in the USL and you're not a developmental piece, right? How many, maybe 80-90% of the players in the USL are not going to be springboarded onto a new level. If you're 25 years old and you play in the USL, MLS teams might not even think they might think you're past it, right? They'd rather go for a 17, 18-year-old who's got potential rather than a 25-year-old who's never played at a higher level than USL League One, for instance. Now, if you can get promoted and you can show all that, and then maybe you can up your stock. That is something that I don't think they're totally right, that it needs to be a developmental league and that winning will all of a sudden, focus on winning will take away from that. I don't think so. I think it actually just creates more diamonds. Pressure creates diamonds. However, one ownership source believes it would increase the value of potential TV contracts as well as sports betting interest, which could add revenue. That I think is 100% true. Another speculated that casual fans of the sport would have another incentive to begin following the USL teams if teams could rise and fall among the leagues for greater entertainment intrigue. Totally true. I think people in America would love to see that. And keep in mind, there's a lot of markets, we call them markets here, cities, locations around the United States that have USL teams and they don't have MLS teams nearby. And so this is the team for the community. If you add the fact that people want to watch this because of the promotion relegation angle, and that absolutely betting, add a whole bunch of lines because of this. And yeah, this can all generate revenue. And so that'd be great for USL. I think they're seeing this as a possible way to make themselves a little bit more interesting, generate more interest in cash. Here's a quote: "Promotion and relegation is truly one of the best constructs in pro sports, full stop," said one owner. "I believe it would take USL to a completely new level." Good, he sounds optimistic. Any change to the competition would almost certainly need to be ratified by the USL Players Association following the landmark first collective bargaining agreements in USL lower division soccer history in 2021-2022. So there's collective bargaining agreement, Players Association for the USL. I think the players would probably be down with this because it makes your leagues and seasons more exciting and it adds to it. Here's a quote: "Promotion and relegation is an original and inherent part of the professional soccer framework around the world, but given the different economic foundations and infrastructure of the American professional sports leagues, implementing a promotion relegation system in a rational manner in the U.S. has presented a conundrum," the USLPA said in a statement provided to The Athletic. Given that this ecosystem with multiple leagues and divisions, the USL is positioned to make history and introduce promotion relegation to North American soccer. That said, there are many issues yet to be navigated and negotiated, and we look forward to having the league approach and engage the USL Players Association in meaningful discussions. So the Players Association sound very much up for it. That's great. And yeah, they're right. USL is well positioned to this because they already have 2 tiers, right? And they want to add a third and make it so you can slide between them. They are in the right place to do this. MLS would probably need to make an MLS2 before they can even entertain this idea. Those 2021 meetings in which league brass first pitched club owners promotion relegation also included a mention of exploring calendar shift to August and May format, more customary in Europe. My opinion on that is don't try to constantly copy Europe on stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense. However, a source said they weren't aware of any progress toward that change and that is unlikely to be voted on the next month. I just don't think the calendar shift is like something that's desperately necessary. It's more a question of the weather in certain parts of the country. Right now in Phoenix, it's like 120. So playing in the summer there sucks. But how about Minnesota or Maine in the wintertime, right? That also terrible. So I don't know. I don't know what you do with the calendar in the United States. It's too complicated. But a second source said they expect at least preliminary design for a potential interleague cup competition to involve, at minimum, the soon-to-be 3 professional levels of the USL pyramid. Soon-to-be. Well, it's got to actually happen first. They got to vote on it first and then construct it. Cool idea, right? That there would be a league, sort of a league cup or FA Cup sort of for the USL only, right? Yeah, another competition for them to play in. I see nothing wrong with that. I think that's fine. There are additional questions about how a change toward promotion and relegation would fit into the U.S. soccer pyramid. Currently, professional soccer leagues and their teams are held to the USSF professional league standards. These baselines are composed of a host of factors, including the size of a majority of its markets, a primary club owner's wealth and investment, and stadium size, geographic spread, and base licensure for a requirement for coaches. So, look, yeah, USSF professional league standards, they've got these requirements that you have to fulfill to be able to participate. This is similar to, if you've heard of what's going on with Luton Town having been promoted to the Premier League, there's a bunch of the parts of their stadium they need to update to be Premier League compliant. Same thing happens with the Champions League or the Europa League when little teams from, a little team from Latvia, for instance, qualifies. They may not be able to play in the Champions League because their stadium is not up to spec for UEFA's requirements, right? So that's kind of one of the things that they want to make sure that everyone does. Those standards were last updated in February 2014. Currently, no provision within the 12-page document spells out how a club that earns promotion or relegation on sporting merit can be eased into stricter requirements if they aren't initially met. It's unclear whether the USL would be looking to sanction its highest level as competing first division or run 2 second or third division sanctioned leagues by launching this additional league. If the USL were to have its top league in this whole system that they're building be a sanctioned first division, then they would have to, all those teams would have to fit the requirements and specs of what the U.S. Soccer Federation considers a first division team. So I believe that means that Memphis would not be playing on that baseball field that they play on. Maybe they would because, NYCFC's been doing it for years. So maybe that's a bad point. Either way, there's certain things about stadium, the amount of money that you have, right? Geographic spread, all these things, licensure for coaches that the top division in that U.S. soccer has may require. And so therefore, what does this mean if they all of a sudden, all these top USL championship teams all of a sudden become first division clubs, according to American soccer standards? What does that mean? Do they get time to ease into those? Or if they get promoted, like I said, Luton, they get promoted, do they all of a sudden have to spend a bunch of money to update their stuff? These are questions that they have to try and figure out. Finally, last quote. Pro-Rel on its own isn't a magic bullet, one source said. Pro-Rel can be done effectively and ineffectively. Very, very good that he said that. Can be done wrong. We're still in the throes of making sure we understand the minutia of how it would work and also what we should expect from a lift perspective. At the end of the day, these are all businesses, and we've got to make sure we have an eye on what the opportunity is, if any, in growing the leagues and the clubs. And that's the end of the article. So, fascinating stuff. Obviously, this is just a beginning. I think this is huge. Not because it'll overhaul sports, it'll overhaul the soccer scene in America, and I don't think it'll have really much of an impact on MLS either. But it is a shakeup. It is possibly the first of its kind, and if it works, it may spread in a way, right? I think that the NBA has a very genuine chance of going in this direction, right? Who knows? I'm not going to step on all you basketball fans. I'm not going to get involved in saying what should happen to the NBA. But for instance, the MLS, if they wanted to eventually have promotion relegation, they would need to make at least a two-tiered system. Here, what they said with the USL is that they want to make 3 because that makes it more legitimate, that there's one league at least where you can get promoted and relegated from. Again, I think that's fantastic. Could this change things? Who knows? We have to wait until they vote on it. Once they vote on it, if they decide to do it, then they have to put the structure in place. Then we have to see it working. So this will be a while. If it happens, it'll be a minute before it takes place, hopefully within the next year and a half, 2 years. I'm very excited about seeing this happen because I think it would be fascinating. And it could be just the shakeup that a lot of professional sports in the U.S. need. And who knows, could be fantastic for players. I don't know. The downsides, there definitely are some. I personally think the upside of trying this is a net positive, and I would love to see it. So, hey, let's keep an eye on this. We'll check back when the vote takes place. But fascinating stuff. Hopefully we move forward from here. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I'm Sebastian North. This is Campfire Football. Have a wonderful day.